Today, Chris's topic is, how well am I living life? Chris will address the what, when, and how we should evaluate our lives to allow us to live a better, well-done life. Please help me welcome Chris Warnky.
With that microphone sitting in that stand. Greetings. It is so good to be here. I am thankful to my Creator for this moment. I am thankful to Chase and to Bank One. For 23 years, I've been a member of the bank. I stepped away and went into what I'm calling pro-retirement in April of just this past year. So I'm not even 6 months out of the routine of being used to walking into this building every day, or at least 5 days or 6 days a week, something to that effect. I'm thankful to the many friends that I have that are here at Chase. Some of you are people that I've worked with in the past and have had a big impact on my life. I'm really thankful for how people have invested in my life during that 23-year period. Today, my goal is to give back to some of you, or to give back to all of you for the things that people have provided to me for 23 years. We're going to talk about something that I think is really important. Shirley approached me a little while back and said, would you be willing to come speak to us on the topic of taking inventory in your life? My initial reaction was, me? You bet. That is my heart. I would love to come speak on that. It's such a part of my heart that I named my business Well Done Life, because I am looking at the end of not only my life, but every day to have my Creator say to me, well done, good and faithful servant. So I want to use my time appropriately, and I want to give back to you guys today. What we're going to do is I'm going to talk through how well we're assessing and living our lives today. So to start with, I want to say, you saw the invitation for today's session. So you knew the topic. How well are you living life? How well are you living your life today? You probably had thoughts go through your mind as you knew you were going to show up today. Where have they led you? What type of assessment do you do today for your life? One of the things that comes to my mind, having not been that far away from being in the Chase building, is the concept of something called PMC. Anybody relate to something called PMC? Performance Management Central? So the question that I have, somebody checks in on you once a quarter to have a conversation about how things are going at work. How often do you spend time thinking about your life and doing a PMC, evaluating where you are and how you're living your life? Does anybody check up on you on that front? Do you take the time quarterly to invest in that way? What we're going to do is we're going to spend some time today, and I'm going to briefly talk about some whys I think it makes sense to evaluate how well you're living your life. Then we're going to talk about when you can conduct that evaluation. And then finally, the majority of the time is going to be on how. I want you to be able to walk away from here with a tangible sense of some things that you can do to assess your life and improve your life. Pretty much anybody that I know will be very happy to take where they are and take it even to another level, even if you're extremely happy with where you are. So let's start with a quote from the book that Darren Hardy wrote on the topic of the compound effect. Darren is actually a publisher of Success Magazine, and he talks about how people so often today basically go through life sleepwalking. Anybody relate to that? They do the same thing every day, consistently. They're so efficient, they don't think about it at all. In a sense, there's a big portion of their life that they're not even in control of. Their auto mechanism kicks in. If you ask the question, how come you do that? Some of this is probably the answer, I don't even know. I've just been doing it that way for so long. Darren would challenge us to evaluate why we're doing the things that we do. Something that may have served us in the past may not be serving us now. And if we're in a routine where this is just what I do, a lot of times we can fall into the mode of thinking about life as this is just what it is. This is what I have to do. And there's no spark in my life. There's no excitement. I'm not progressing. I'm just making it through. I'm surviving instead of thriving. I have a little item here I'd like to show you. I don't know if you could see this. This is an acorn. And incidentally, I have to tell you this little side story because I thought it was really interesting. I knew I was going to talk about the acorn today. I'm sitting at home on my patio. My wife is out doing a walk. She comes walking back home, and I'm sitting there reading a book, and a squirrel comes up on our sidewalk. He kind of looks at me for a minute. I'm busy reading a book, so I'm not paying much attention. So I keep reading. Anyway, apparently he comes in front of our little bushes and up onto the porch right next to me. And it's funny because now he's getting close enough that it's like, I better pay attention to this squirrel, you know. So I kind of took a little look. Anyway, it was like a cartoon. The little squirrel is facing away from me. He turns his head and stares at me for a second, and guess what? He's got an acorn in his mouth. So it tied in totally, and it's like, you know, when you're preparing something, you wonder how things are going to go. Anyway, I got the sign that the acorn is going to be a great tool to use today. So as you look at an acorn, what do you see? Do you see a little nut that fell from an oak tree? Or do you see the potential that is in this acorn that could become a mighty oak tree? You know how many acorns in a year a mature oak tree can produce? Somewhere between 75 and 150,000 acorns every year. The potential for this one acorn is massive on the impact that it can have to go and reach its potential. What will happen with this potential of this acorn if I keep it in my pocket? It's going to stay an acorn, and it will not do anything to reach its potential. I also am doing some of my research about acorns. 2/3 to 3/4 of them are eaten by bigger animals. We won't go down that path. But I challenge you and encourage you, as a coach, my orientation when I look at people, and I challenge you to look at people the same way. When you look at people, you look at people as an acorn, as the potential that they have within them. A potential that's different than I'm sleepwalking through life. That I just kind of do the same thing day in and day out, and I'm going to do this until I die. The second point I wanted to make is literally one of the other reasons you should take time to assess your life is because time is ticking, and it will run out. The average age in the United States for men and women is about 80 years. You know, people don't like to probably look at it this way, but if you're 40 years old, you're halfway through your life. If yesterday was your birthday and you turned 40, you're over halfway through your life on an average. We have a short window of time. Anytime you want to reach a potential, you've got to be active and moving forward. You can't be in this sleepwalking mode and truly reach your potential. So I highly encourage you to consider the time. I'll tell you, 80 is the average age. Many of us won't make it that far. Some of us, I'm planning to be around until 90. I don't know how much control of that I have, but I'm working hard on my exercises, my routines, and eating and drinking right, as we'll talk about in a minute. So I'm doing what I can. My daughter right now is dealing with an issue. About a week ago, she's a personal trainer, my daughter, and one of her clients was out hiking at Zion National Park and slipped and fell 100 feet to her death. You guys may have read about it in the newspaper. My daughter was meeting with that woman, I think she was 46 or 47, and her mom, and her best friend, and her mom in the basement of the mom of this woman. So My daughter, is, from a spiritual standpoint, she has a great handle on her life and what she's needing to be, doing. But life is short, and if we don't take it intentionally, it's not necessarily going to be around tomorrow. We need to be very intentional and leverage the time that we have. So let's talk about the when. Okay, there's going to be a couple ways that we're going to go here. One is sometimes it's easy to do the life assessment because we get help. Okay? Last year, 2012, in May, I wake up. I'm going to go to work like I always do. I'm checking emails and things. I had a stroke. Mr. Healthy. I'm on the exercise, treadmill and all that stuff 7 days a week. I eat right. I weigh approximately right. I sleep well. I have great family relationships. How in the world did I have a stroke? The good news is that day they sent me to some medical facilities and got all concerned and kind of messed up my head a little bit. It's like, what's going on here? They did an MRI, and with the MRI, they determined that there's something called a TIA. Some of you may be familiar with. They said, it wasn't a TIA. It was an actual stroke. There's permanent damage in the brain. And by the way, there could be another one, and next time it could be massive. So I got the 911 lecture. Talk about messing up your head. It's like you start to have something that doesn't feel right. You start thinking, should I do the, call 911? So I got a wake-up call. Even though I thought I was doing all the right things with my life and health. The reality is, guess what that did? That sent me into another pretty deep dive of assessing my life. How well am I living my life? We have all kinds of situations we go through that can create those environments for us. It can be a health issue, it can be a divorce, loss of a job, loss of a house, the death of a family member or someone close to us. It gives us help to go through that process.